Gaston, a male rhino beetle, looked at the female feasting on the banana piece, but he held back. "Man, I don't know," he said. "I smell him all over her. I believe she is his." The mite, gripping onto Gaston's horn, hissed, "No, you must. It's your destiny. He's not here anyway, and rumor has it, he's dead now. It's time to claim what's yours." Compelled by the drive to mate, completely disregarding the scent of another male, Gaston moved in to seize the opportunity to pass on his genes to the next generation of rhino beetles in Verdantia, these huge grasslands in which he somehow found himself, along with this female, to keep him company. He began to mate with her. But little did he know, someone nearly twice his size was watching, just inches away from the crime. And what happened next left my jaw on the floor. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC family. Enjoy. I placed Beast, a male rhino beetle, onto the Verdantian soil. He stood there completely still, unmoving from his spot. His listlessness was strange, and I actually wondered if he was old and dying. The other possibility was he was just sleeping. But if these were his last moments of life, it would have been a shame, for he was a marvelous specimen. Huge horns, massive size, beautiful color. It would have been awesome for his highly desirable genes to pass on to the next generation of rhino beetles. And more so, for it to happen in Verdantia, my new 2,000-gallon tropical grasslands vivarium, whose purpose is to study a grassland ecosystem. And rhino beetles happen to be very important players in the grasslands where I live because as adults, they're herbivores, specifically frugivores, which means they eat fruit, as well as tree sap and flower nectar. And as larvae, they're detritivores, meaning they eat decaying matter. Now, I've been wanting to breed rhino beetles for years, but have failed to do so due to not being able to find a female, and/or my males dying of old age. I also have been dying to actually witness the iconic battles between males, where they use their horns to joust and flip each other over in an act of dominance. Now, to my surprise, this rhino beetle breeding season had blessed me, as this year I managed to find 2 males and 1 female, and Verdantia offered the perfect rhino beetle breeding grounds to witness both things I was hoping to see. But AC family, nothing could have prepared me for the craziness I would be witnessing over the next 8 hours, ending in a way I never expected at all. I watched as he lay there unmoving for a very long time. Okay, I figured maybe he just needed something to wake him up. So I placed a piece of papaya fruit nearby. Still no response. Okay, perhaps he needs a little competition to wake up. I dug into another holding container and placed Gaston, another small male rhino beetle, into Verdantia. I'm unsure why Gaston was so small, so much smaller than Beast, but my guess was he had less to eat as a larva, or he was just genetically a mini male. Between the 2 males was the piece of fruit, and I anticipated that a rhino beetle brawl would possibly be happening soon. Surprisingly, Gaston began to dig into the ground, uninterested in food. It was still late afternoon, and these beetles are most active by night, so I think he just needed to get a bit more sleep. Alright, guess it was time to add in the lady. I placed Belle, a female, into Verdantia near the papaya fruit and watched as she sprinted past it, also uninterested in eating. My heart stopped as she continued to crawl straight for Beast. I held my breath as she rammed right into him. And once beneath him, froze. I waited to see what would happen next. It was then that I began to notice tiny movements in Beast's antennae. He began to wake up. Hey, where am I? Beast wondered as he looked around at the strange new world around him. And who are you? Me? Oh, hi. I'm your creator of worlds. Welcome to Verdantia, Beast. He began to get up on his feet. Turns out he was just sleeping all this time. I watched as Beast began to slowly rotate around, still not noticing Belle, who was keeping completely still. Man, Beast looked so cool. He's probably the largest rhino beetle I've ever seen. He was majestic and strong. It was then that he got a whiff of a very interesting scent. Wait a moment. His instincts were about to kick in. A thin mist began to float towards them, enveloping the grasslands with a hydrating veil that perfectly set a romantic tone for the beetles. And then he smelled her. It was unmistakable. A female. He double-checked and continued to inspect the feminine fragrance of her carapace. Indeed, this was the lady of his dreams. Searching for the right position, Belle assisted by moving forward, which gave him all the info he needed to perform the age-old ritual. With a tight embrace, the two fell over. Oh my! And soon, out came his Ediagus, the technical term for his male appendage. And they made the connection. Oh my! It felt a bit wrong to watch, but I've never seen this before, so I couldn't resist to keep observing the process. For science. A creator of worlds. To my delight, the beetles were mating, and this was my very first successful mating of rhino beetles. This was easier than I imagined. It happened pretty much immediately, and funny to think that all Beast needed to wake up was some romance in his life. It was then that I witnessed something truly incredible. A hypoaspis mite began to crawl down Belle's chest. These mites are symbiotic and phoretic, which means they aren't parasitic and simply are hitching on for a ride. I see them living on all rhino beetles. They feed on smaller bad mites and organic matter stuck in their joints and folds. But mating events like this are a cause for celebration for the mites as well. You see, while the beetles are busy mating in a tight embrace, it's like a cruise ship docking at a foreign country, where mites can migrate to the body of a new beetle and meet other mites with whom they can mate with as well. The hypoaspis mites actually depend on these beetle mating events in order for their mite gene pool to diversify. A mite began to happily make its way down Belle's leg. Don't mind if I do? Then made its way onto Beast. Sup, ladies? And just like that, Beast contracted an STM from Belle, a sexually transmitted mite. A whole 40 minutes later, the beetles were done. He detached and began to leave. But partway through, he decided to turn around to say bye to Belle. See you around. Bye, she said, as she began to burrow into the ground. She now had his genes within her for the production of his offspring. Beast began to back away with his heart full as he went off in the opposite direction. He too went off to bury himself into the ground. I placed in 2 banana slices, one here at one end of the tank and another somewhere towards the back, within tufts of grass, hoping to see more cool rhino beetle action later that night. Night fell in Verdantia, and a feeding frenzy was taking place at one of the bananas. The detritivores had emerged for the feast. Belle, along with a swarm of isopods and a millipede, were chowing down on the sweet banana. So I find rhino beetles feed like this. They bury their faces right into the fruit and just sit there feeding. And Belle needed a lot of food right now, as she would be laying eggs soon. I also saw Gaston crawling around, but strangely, no beast anywhere. By the second night, the banana was almost finished, but again, no beast was seen anywhere. Just Gaston hanging around. By the third night, the banana had been finished, and still no signs of beast anywhere. It was sad to think, but I figured that after he and Belle mated, Beast had died, having fulfilled his ultimate life purpose. But on the bright side, at least he had passed on his genes before doing so. On the 4th day, I placed more fruit down in Verdantia for the beetles, and what I witnessed that night completely blew me away. As usual, a pride of isopods were feasting with Belle on the fresh banana. She had no idea that tonight she was being watched by a creeper sitting quietly behind her. Gaston's hypoaspis mite crawled eagerly all over Gaston's horn in excitement. He knew what was coming up, but Gaston was a bit apprehensive. "Man, I don't know," he said. "I smell him all over her. I believe she is his." "No, you must. It's your destiny. He's not here anyway, and rumor has it, he's dead now. It's time to claim what's yours." Gaston was torn, but her every movement taunted him, luring him closer and closer as she fed on the banana. And finally, Gaston made antennal contact and immediately lost his control. "I can't resist." "Give in, Gaston. You are the alpha now." "No, I can't." The mite, annoyed, shamed, "Look, you either die without mating or you father some children with a slightly guilty conscience. Choose the lesser of the 2 weevils." And slowly, Gaston proceeded forward, tapping his antennae on her carapace, taking in her intoxicating scent as he moved into position. She was receptive. And so were her mites. And just like that, despite his smaller size, he hopped on and held tightly, carefully inserting his Ediagus. The ancient mating ritual had begun. "Good job, my man. Good job," encouraged the mite. The 2 rhino beetles lay in an embrace as they quietly mated on the Verdantian soil among the isopods. But just nearby, concealed within the grass, a beast had risen after days of sleeping and was finishing off some banana. "Hey, bestia, you better finish up fast," gossiped an isopod. "I heard someone's hitting on your girl, bro." Beast did not like the sound of that. "Lower west side, next to the banana." A few hours later, Beast, following the scent of Belle, stumbled upon the shocking scene. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Another male was mating with his female. See, I told you. My heart was pumping loud in my ears, watching as this all began to unfold. I couldn't believe I was witnessing a real-life rhino beetle soap opera. Instead of rampaging forward, Beast decided to creep up slowly behind them. A mite on Beast's horn shouted, "Oh, make him cook," before springing off his horn and crawling towards the couple. The mites were about to have one large yacht party. Beast began to inch closer. And squeeze himself through. What a crime this was! In the beetle world, anyway. Beast surprisingly stood still as Belle and Gaston continued to mate. Finally, Beast pressed his horn up against them, and with a sudden shudder, Gaston was made aware of Beast's presence. Huh? Beast then began to ram his horn against them. Roar! He then turned his head towards Belle, his first Verdantia in love. How could you? She had no response and continued to feed from her banana. Now, I don't actually know if rhino beetles feel heartbreak, as the species is naturally polygamous, but I was pretty certain the males were not okay with sharing. And then, the unspeakable. Gaston disconnected himself and decided to challenge Beast and pushed forward with his tiny horn. She's mine now! Ah! This was his greatest mistake. Emboldened and blinded by rage, Beast, with his great horns, lifted the couple up like a forklift, tearing Belle away from her banana and throwing them both like footballs against the grass. Whoa! The rhino beetle battle had officially begun. The two beetles stammered to regain footing as Beast turned to face them, growling. Gaston, with his ego scarred, began to crawl away when his mites urged him, "Be a man! Don't be a jewel beetle!" He listened to the voices and regained the confidence to turn back and continue claiming what was his. Hehe, attaboy. Belle was trying to wriggle free and grasped for Beast, who let her struggle. "Beast, my love," she pleaded. "I'm so sorry, but it's my nature to mate with multiple males. And we thought you were dead." Gaston began to crawl into position to attempt to pick up where he had left off. And in the most intense moment ever, I watched as both males, intoxicated by instinct and beetle testosterone, crossed their horns face to face like dueling swordsmen. "She's mine," menaced Gaston. "Oh, hey, where are you going?" Belle managed to wriggle free and pull away. Once free, she attempted to squeeze by the two males. She had had enough of this drama and just wanted to get out. Gaston was hot on her tail, trying again to mount her, but she managed to get away. As Gaston attempted to follow her, also squeezing by Beast, Beast was not going to have it. "Oh no you don't, Ladybug." Gaston squeezed by Beast, jeering, "Oh yes I do, dung beetle." Gaston proceeded to get into mounting position again, crawling on top of Belle. Was Beast going to attack? I watched wide-eyed as the drama continued to unfold. Gaston's butt mite was laughing in glee as the rhino beetles were engaging in this push and shove match. Beast attempted multiple shoves with his horn and front legs, but the ground below him was loose, which posed a bit of a challenge. The moment he pushed in closer and his antennae made contact with Belle's carapace, he fell into a trance. This was his love, and he was not okay with sharing her, nor his mites. And then a struggle ensued, with the three beetles rolling around in a tussle, and I did my best to figure out what exactly was happening. I think he was trying to maneuver the beetles into a certain position, and that was when I saw it. Oh no! His Ediagus!
A creator of worlds!
He was trying to mate with Belle, but no, Beast, this is not it. How awkward. All he could smell was Belle, and was doing his best to try to mate with her before Gaston could get in there. Soon, Beast's maneuvering skills showed some promise as he successfully located Belle's hind quarters. He was in the right position now, and all he needed to do was seal the deal with the appropriate placement of his Ediagus. But what ended up happening next was the biggest surprise of all, and totally left my jaw on the floor. Suddenly, the struggling stopped. Wait, what happened? Why did they stop? Upon closer inspection, when I realized what had occurred, I bursted out in the biggest laugh. Can you guys believe these beetles? All three of them had their faces buried in the banana. They were all eating. It seemed the banana had totally distracted them from the drama and the fight as they proceeded to scarf down the tasty rotting fruit. I couldn't believe my eyes. This whole ordeal was truly a heart-pumping, heart-wrenching, and face-stuffing experience that I would never forget. They remained in this feeding position all night. At one point, Beast kind of stopped eating a bit and seemed to remember that they were in the middle of a fight before getting distracted again by the banana and falling back into banana bliss. Well, this all taught me two things about rhino beetles. First, that their priorities are food before brood. And second, that this species of rhino beetle is willing to share resources when they're abundant. I bet once the banana gets all finished and they get hungrier and there are more males in the picture in relation to females, things get much more intense. I'll just have to see if I manage to find more male rhino beetles to place into Verdantia. But overall, my rhino beetle dreams had become a reality. Belle, now with both Beast and Gaston fathering her children, Verdantia will have a pretty genetically diverse set of rhino beetles in the future. Soon Belle will lay her eggs into the soils, and from them will hatch small larvae which will feed on decaying wood and compost, growing into massive larvae, pupating and emerging above ground as adult rhino beetles sometime next year. And same goes for the hilarious hypoaspis mites that ride them. Belle's hypoaspis mites will lay their eggs into the soils, along with Belle's, which continues the cycle. Over the next few days, I watched as the beetles continued to share their banana, but Beast seemed to win Belle most nights. And during the day, Beast would bury himself at the site of feeding, indiscreetly by the way, hoping to be the first to catch the next banana offering. Because I guess, in the rhino beetle world, size doesn't matter as much as brains. Verdantia's vegetation and grasses have had 4 weeks now to send down their roots and establish. The vegetation was beginning to grow in, nice and thick. And so now that we had a great set of detritivores of various kinds living and breeding in Verdantia, it was time to dip our foot into the world of grassland herbivores. And AC family, I can't wait to show you what I had planned to add in next. Vote in my community tab to affect this story